Dragged into the arena as a joke, the rejected Omega shifted and silenced all as Alpha chose her. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main character. Emma Vale, a 19-year-old Omega, had always known that her place in society was beneath the pack's leaders. Born into the prestigious Thornvale pack, she had never truly belonged. From a young age, she struggled with a condition that no one spoke about, not even in whispers. Unlike the other Omegas, Emma couldn't shift into a wolf. Her scent was weak, practically invisible to the wolves around her. She had never been accepted by anyone, and no alpha had ever claimed her, despite the fact that she had entered the ceremonial rites of her pack. Most Omegas were proud of their scents, the fragrance that called out to their future mates. Emma, however, was not. Her scent never developed, and her presence was barely noticed. That was until today. Today, Emma was thrown into the arena as a joke. The pack had been gathering for the annual ritual to honor the Alpha Kings of the region. The tension in the air was thick, and the pack members watched with curiosity as Emma was led into the center of the arena, her face flushed with humiliation. They had made her the center of attention, as if her mere presence was a source of amusement. The crowd laughed, whispers of broken Omega and worthless floated through the air. Emma stood still, her heart pounding, her shoulders slumped in defeat. She had no strength to fight back, no ability to stand up for herself. They expected her to fail, to collapse in front of the Alpha Kings, to show how inferior she was. But something inside her shifted. It wasn't an external change. It was deeper than that. Something buried inside her, something she had never acknowledged, began to stir. She felt her senses heighten, a strange warmth spreading through her body. The voices in the crowd blurred into the background as she focused on the powerful energy surging within her. The next thing she knew, her body began to shift. The air crackled with electricity, and her legs lengthened, her muscles growing stronger, and her eyes glowed as her wolf form began to emerge. Her hands trembled as her claws extended, her senses sharpening beyond anything she had ever experienced. The crowd fell silent, stunned by the transformation happening before their eyes. Emma could feel the power coursing through her, and for the first time, she felt alive. Her body, once weak and fragile, now surged with strength and dominance. The arena, once a place of mockery, was now her domain. The crowd was frozen, unsure of what to do. They had never seen anything like this before. Emma's gaze swept over them, and she realized that in that moment, she was no longer the Omega they had thrown into the arena for sport. She was something more. She was an alpha. As she stood tall, a figure stepped forward from the shadows. It was Maxwell Rivers, the Alpha King. His presence was undeniable, his dominance radiating through the air like an electric current. The moment he set eyes on Emma, his expression softened, but there was a fire in his eyes that spoke of something deeper, something ancient. Enough, he commanded, his voice resonating with authority. The crowd immediately fell silent, their eyes now on him. He turned to Emma, his gaze steady and unwavering. "You," he said, his voice low and commanding. "You are no longer the joke. You are mine." The crowd gasped, the weight of his words sinking in. Maxwell had chosen Emma, the once rejected Omega, as his mate. And with that simple declaration, everything changed. Emma no longer stood alone. She was no longer invisible. She was his. And with that, the arena, once filled with laughter and scorn, was now filled with reverence and awe. The air in the arena was thick with tension, but now it was silent. Every eye was on Maxwell, the Alpha King, as he stepped forward. His gaze never left Emma, his expression unreadable. Emma stood tall, her wolf form still rippling with power, her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and confusion. She had shifted in front of the entire pack, something no Omega had ever done before. But now, standing before the Alpha King, she felt a deep sense of responsibility. She wasn't just any Omega. She was something more, something powerful, and something he had chosen. The crowd, still in shock from her transformation, slowly began to murmur among themselves. Maxwell raised his hand, and instantly, the crowd fell silent again. His eyes were sharp, his voice commanding as he spoke. "Emma Vale," he said, his voice carrying through the arena. "You have proven yourself in ways no one expected. You are not the weak Omega they once mocked. You are strong, you are powerful, and you are my mate." The words hit Emma like a wave crashing against the shore. Her mind raced as she processed what had just happened. Maxwell, the Alpha King, had chosen her. She was no longer the invisible Omega, the one who had been cast aside. She was his. And with that, everything changed. Maxwell took a step closer to her, his presence overwhelming. Emma could feel the weight of his gaze, the intensity of his power, but also something else, something softer. He saw her. He saw her for who she truly was, not as an object to be discarded, but as a person worthy of respect and love. He reached out and gently placed his hand on her shoulder, a gesture that was both reassuring and possessive. The touch sent a shiver through Emma's body. It was as if something inside her awakened, something deep within her soul. For the first time, she felt whole. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was living. Maxwell's voice broke through her thoughts. "Come with me," he said, his tone firm but kind. "You have nothing to fear now. No one will ever mock you again. You are mine, and I will protect you." As he spoke, Emma's heart swelled. She had always dreamed of being seen, of being valued for more than just her weakness. But she never imagined it would happen like this, with the Alpha King choosing her in front of everyone. The crowd watched as Maxwell took Emma's hand, guiding her out of the arena. Their footsteps echoed through the silent space, and Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of power that she had never experienced before. The weight of the moment settled over her. She wasn't just Emma Vale, the Omega who had been thrown into the arena. She was Emma Vale, the chosen mate of the Alpha King. As they walked, Emma glanced at Maxwell, her eyes filled with questions. But before she could speak, he turned to her, a small smile on his lips. "I know this is overwhelming," he said, his voice softening. "But I chose you because I saw something in you. You're more than what they've told you. You're more than what you've told yourself." Emma didn't know what to say. She had always been taught that Omegas were weak, that they were to be protected but never to lead. But Maxwell's words, his actions, made her question everything she had been taught. She was more than she had believed. And with Maxwell by her side, she could finally be the person she was meant to be. As they reached the edge of the arena, Maxwell stopped and turned to her. "This is just the beginning, Emma," he said, his voice filled with determination. "Together, we'll show them all what you're truly capable of." Emma nodded, her heart filled with a sense of purpose she had never known. She was no longer just an Omega. She was something more. And with Maxwell at her side, she was ready to embrace her future. The day after the arena event, Emma woke up to the sound of birds chirping outside the window. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting soft golden rays into the room. She sat up slowly, her heart still racing from the events of yesterday. The Alpha King, Maxwell, had chosen her. Her mind replayed the moment over and over. Her transformation in front of the crowd, the shock on their faces, and Maxwell's declaration. She had spent her whole life believing she was nothing more than a weak, invisible Omega, but now she was the Alpha King's mate. She could hardly believe it. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her thoughts. The room was quiet, peaceful, but Emma couldn't shake the uncertainty that lingered in the air. She had always been a part of the pack, but now, everything had changed. She wasn't sure what was expected of her. Maxwell had told her they would show everyone what she was truly capable of. But how? What did it mean to be the mate of an Alpha King? She swung her legs over the side of the bed, her bare feet touching the cool floor. As she stood, she felt a strange sense of power flowing through her, a sense that she had never felt before. Her wolf was stronger, more present than ever, and it was like a voice inside her was telling her to embrace her newfound strength. She walked toward the window and looked out at the sprawling kingdom that Maxwell ruled. The land stretched out before her, green fields dotted with towering trees and winding rivers. It was beautiful, peaceful, but Emma knew that with the beauty came great responsibility. She wasn't just a maid anymore. She was the future Luna, the future queen of this land. But what did that mean for her? Maxwell had already shown his faith in her, but she had yet to show him what she could do. She didn't want to be just a figurehead. someone who stood beside him without contributing. She wanted to prove that she was worthy of the title, worthy of his trust. Emma's thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock at the door. She turned to see a young servant standing in the doorway, her face respectful but curious. "Your Majesty," the servant said, "the Alpha King requests your presence in the council room." Emma's heart skipped a beat. Maxwell wanted to speak with her. She nodded, giving the servant a small smile. "I'll be there shortly." The servant bowed and left the room, closing the door quietly behind her. Emma took a deep breath, looking at her reflection in the mirror. She was still adjusting to the title, still adjusting to the changes in her life. She wasn't sure what the council meeting would hold, but she knew that this was a new chapter in her life. A chapter where she would no longer be the weak Omega, but someone who could stand beside Maxwell as his equal. She took one last look at herself in the mirror and straightened her shoulders. Today, she would begin to show Maxwell and the pack what she was truly capable of. As she made her way to the council room, Emma's mind raced. She could feel the weight of the situation, the expectations that were already starting to build. But as she walked through the halls of the castle, she felt a sense of calm wash over her. She wasn't alone anymore. Maxwell believed in her, and that was enough. She opened the doors to the council room and walked in, her eyes meeting Maxwell's. He was seated at the head of the long table, his gaze intense but welcoming. "Emma," he said, his voice warm but commanding. "Come sit. We have much to discuss." Emma nodded and took a seat beside him, her heart steadying as she felt his presence beside her. This was her future now, and she was ready to face it, whatever it might bring. The council room was filled with a low hum of conversation as the pack leaders gathered around the long oak table. Emma sat beside Maxwell, her back straight, her hands resting on her lap. She could feel the eyes of the council members on her, but this time, instead of the familiar sense of being an outsider, she felt something different, something stronger. She was no longer just an Omega, cast aside and ignored. She was Maxwell's mate, and with that came responsibility. Maxwell's voice broke through the murmur, drawing everyone's attention. "We are gathered here today to discuss the future of this kingdom and the alliances we will form with the neighboring packs," he said, his voice commanding and steady. Emma could feel the weight of his words, the importance of this moment. She wasn't just sitting in on a meeting. This was her future, her role as Luna beginning to take shape. Maxwell turned to her, his gaze softening for a moment before he continued. "Emma will be joining us in the discussions today. As my mate, she will play an important role in our decisions moving forward." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had known this day would come, but hearing Maxwell say it aloud, in front of the council, made it feel real. She wasn't just his mate in name anymore. She was part of his world, part of the decisions that would shape the future of their people. The room fell silent, and all eyes turned to Emma. She could feel the weight of their expectations, the silent questions in their gaze. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. This was her chance to prove she belonged here, to show them that she was more than just the Omega they had once rejected. "I understand the challenges we face," Emma began, her voice calm but firm. "The pack has been through a lot, and the decisions we make today will affect the future of everyone here. But I believe in us. I believe in this pack, and I believe in our strength." The council members exchanged surprised glances. Emma could see the skepticism in their eyes, the doubt that she, an Omega, could understand the complexities of leadership. But she didn't back down. She had been underestimated her whole life, and this moment was no different. She was ready to stand her ground. Maxwell's expression softened, a small but approving smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "Well said," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper, but loud enough for the council to hear. "Emma has proven herself in ways none of us expected. She will be a strong partner in this, and her voice will be heard." Emma felt a swell of pride in her chest. Maxwell's belief in her was all she needed to stand tall, to be the leader he knew she could be. The council meeting continued, with Maxwell and the others discussing alliances, trade, and security. Emma listened carefully, absorbing every detail, her mind racing with thoughts of what the future held. She knew that her role as Luna wouldn't be easy. It would come with its own challenges, its own hurdles. But she was ready. She had the strength, the heart, and the determination to stand beside Maxwell and help lead this pack into a new era. As the meeting came to a close, Maxwell stood, and turned to her. "You did well today," he said quietly, his hand brushing against hers. "I'm proud of you." Emma's heart fluttered at his words. She had always dreamed of being seen, of being valued for more than just her weakness. And now, with Maxwell by her side, she was no longer the rejected Omega. She was Emma Vale, Luna of the pack, and she was ready to embrace the future that awaited her. The days following the council meeting were filled with a whirlwind of new responsibilities and challenges for Emma. She spent her mornings with Maxwell, learning the intricacies of leadership, the delicate balance of diplomacy, and the weight of decisions that affected not only their pack, but the neighboring territories as well. Maxwell, ever patient and supportive, guided her through each step, his presence a steady anchor in the sea of unfamiliarity. But as much as she learned, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that she was still proving herself. The weight of the pack's expectations lingered in the air, and while Maxwell's belief in her was unwavering, she knew that there were still doubts in the hearts of some. The pack leaders, while respectful, still treated her with caution, unsure if she truly belonged in this new role. Emma was determined to show them that she was more than just the Omega they had once rejected. She was Maxwell's mate, and she would stand beside him as an equal. One evening, after a particularly grueling meeting with the council, Maxwell took Emma aside. "You've done well today," he said, his voice filled with quiet pride. "But I know this is all new for you. You're not alone in this. I'm here to help, to support you." Emma looked up at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. She had never known someone could believe in her so completely. "I know," she replied, her voice soft but steady. "I just want to make sure I'm doing right by you, by the pack." Maxwell's smile was gentle, his eyes filled with understanding. "You're doing more than enough. You're already making a difference." The words were like a balm to her soul, soothing the doubts that had been swirling in her mind. She was still learning, still growing into this new role, but with Maxwell by her side, she felt more confident than ever before. The next few weeks were a blur of meetings, decisions, and the quiet moments where Emma could catch her breath and reflect. She spent more time with Maxwell, getting to know the man behind the title of Alpha King. She learned about his past, the pain he had endured, and the weight of the crown he wore. She understood, more deeply than ever, why he carried himself with such quiet strength. He had fought for everything he had, and now he was fighting for their future. Emma's respect for him grew with each passing day, but so did her own sense of self. She wasn't just his mate anymore. She was Emma Vale, Luna of the pack, and she was ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead. One evening, as they walked through the castle gardens, Maxwell turned to her, his gaze intense. "You've grown so much in such a short time, Emma," he said. "I can see the strength in you, the leader you're becoming." Emma smiled, a soft blush coloring her cheeks. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said. "You've always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself." Maxwell reached out and took her hand, his grip warm and reassuring. "You've always had it in you, Emma. I just helped you see it." As they stood there, hand in hand, Emma realized that this was just the beginning. She wasn't just the mate of the Alpha King. She was a leader in her own right, someone who could make a difference. And with Maxwell by her side, she knew that together, they could face anything that came their way. The following weeks passed in a blur, filled with countless meetings and decisions that weighed heavily on Emma's shoulders. Every day, she stood by Maxwell's side, learning more about the intricacies of leading a kingdom. She had come so far from the timid Omega who had been thrown into the arena as a joke. Now, she was a force to be reckoned with, not only as Maxwell's mate, but also as a leader in her own right. The council had started to respect her. Her opinions were no longer dismissed or ignored. She was beginning to make her mark on the pack, and with each passing day, she felt herself grow into the role of Luna. Despite the respect she had earned, Emma often found herself struggling with the pressure. Maxwell had always been her rock, but she couldn't help but feel like she was constantly being watched, her every move scrutinized by the pack. She wasn't just Maxwell's mate anymore. She was Luna, and the pack expected her to lead alongside him. One evening, as they sat together in the castle's grand library, Maxwell glanced up from the scrolls he was reading, his expression thoughtful. "You've done well these past few weeks," he said softly, his voice full of pride. "You've proven to everyone that you belong here." Emma smiled at him, but the smile didn't quite reach her eyes. She appreciated his words, but a part of her still felt like an imposter. I still feel like I have a long way to go, she admitted, her voice quieter than usual. I know I've earned their respect, but sometimes it still feels like I'm not enough. Maxwell's gaze softened, and he set aside the scrolls before standing up and walking over to her. He knelt down in front of her, taking her hands in his. Emma, you are more than enough, he said, his voice firm with conviction. You've proven yourself time and time again, not just to the pack, but to me. I couldn't have asked for a better mate, and I couldn't be prouder of the woman you've become. Emma's heart swelled at his words. She had always feared that she wasn't enough, that she would never live up to the expectations of the pack, or even Maxwell himself. But in that moment, with Maxwell looking at her with such sincerity, she realized that she had come further than she ever thought possible. She wasn't just his mate, she was his equal. Thank you, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Maxwell smiled, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. There's nothing to thank me for, he said. You've always had the strength inside you. I just helped you find it. Emma gazed at him, her heart filled with gratitude. I don't know what I would have done without you, she said softly. You've shown me what it means to believe in myself. Maxwell's smile deepened, and he stood up, offering her his hand. Then let's show them what we can do together, he said, his voice full of determination. We've only just begun, Emma. Together, there's nothing we can't accomplish. Emma took his hand, feeling a surge of confidence wash over her. She was no longer just the Omega who had been cast aside. She was Emma Vale, Luna of the pack, and with Maxwell by her side, she was ready to face whatever challenges the future held. As they walked together through the castle halls, Emma knew that this was only the beginning of their journey. With Maxwell as her partner, she was ready to lead the pack into a new era, one where their strength, unity, and love would define them. Together, they were unstoppable. The following weeks brought a steady rhythm to Emma's new life. The weight of her responsibilities as Luna, though still overwhelming at times, was becoming more manageable with each passing day. Maxwell's presence was a constant source of strength, and he continued to guide her with patience and trust. But as she settled into her new role, Emma began to notice subtle changes in the way the pack interacted with her. Where there had once been hesitation, there was now respect. Her decisions, no matter how small, were given careful consideration. The council members no longer doubted her place alongside Maxwell. They began to look to her for guidance, just as they did with him. It was a quiet victory, but to Emma, it was a victory nonetheless. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Emma found herself alone in the castle's garden, her thoughts drifting. The moon was full, casting a soft silver glow over the path that wound through the flowers. Emma had always found peace in the garden, the quiet of the night allowing her mind to clear. As she walked through the garden, a familiar voice called her name. She turned to see Maxwell approaching, his expression soft. There you are, he said, a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. I was looking for you. Emma smiled back, feeling the warmth in her chest that only Maxwell could evoke. I needed some time to think, she replied, her voice gentle. Maxwell stepped closer, his hand brushing hers as he joined her on the path. What's on your mind? He asked, his voice filled with genuine curiosity. Emma paused, looking up at the stars before meeting his gaze. I feel like I'm finally finding my place here, she said, her voice thoughtful. But sometimes, I still wonder if I'm doing enough. If I'm really ready to lead. Maxwell's expression softened, and he placed his hand on her shoulder, his touch grounding her. Emma, you've already proven more than enough. You've shown strength, wisdom, and a heart that cares for this pack. You are ready. The sincerity in his words struck Emma deeply. She had come so far, and yet there were still moments of doubt that lingered in her mind. But hearing him say it aloud, hearing his unwavering belief in her, made her feel more confident than ever before. Thank you, she whispered, her heart swelling with gratitude. Maxwell smiled, his eyes filled with affection. You don't need to thank me, he said. I believe in you, Emma. I always will. They continued to walk together in silence, the soft rustling of the leaves filling the space between them. Emma leaned her head against his shoulder, feeling the weight of the day lift off her shoulders. For the first time in a long while, she felt at peace. She was no longer the rejected Omega she had once been. She was Emma Vale, Luna of the pack, and with Maxwell by her side, She knew there was nothing they couldn't accomplish together. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. With Maxwell's support and the strength she had found within herself, she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the days passed, Emma continued to find her rhythm as Luna. The challenges of leadership had not eased, but she felt more equipped to handle them. Maxwell remained by her side, a steady presence in the whirlwind of decisions and responsibilities. Yet, as much as Emma was beginning to thrive in her new role, a small part of her couldn't help but feel the pull of her old self, the Omega who had been rejected and doubted by so many. Even though the pack had started to accept her as Maxwell's mate and Luna, Emma knew that some of them still held reservations. But with each decision she made, with each step she took alongside Maxwell, she was slowly proving to them, and to herself, that she was capable. One evening, after another full day of meetings, Emma found herself standing at the balcony, looking out over the kingdom. The sun was setting, casting vibrant oranges and pinks across the sky. The land stretched out before her, peaceful and serene, a stark contrast to the chaos that had once consumed her life. She had come so far, but there was still so much to do. As she leaned against the railing, lost in thought, she felt a warm presence beside her. Maxwell stood there, watching her with an unreadable expression. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Emma said, her voice soft. "It's hard to believe this is all mine now." Maxwell nodded, his eyes scanning the landscape. "It's yours, and it's ours," he said quietly. "You've earned your place here, Emma." The words brought a smile to her lips, but the doubt that had been lingering in her heart was still there. "I sometimes wonder if I'm truly ready for this," she admitted, turning to face him. "The pack, the kingdom, they're all looking to me now. What if I make a mistake?" Maxwell reached out, placing his hand on hers. His touch was gentle, grounding her in the moment. "You've already made mistakes, Emma. We all have. But what matters is what we learn from them." His voice was calm, steady, and reassuring. "You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be yourself." Emma looked at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I'm still figuring out who I am in all of this," she confessed. "But with you, I feel like I can find my way." Maxwell's smile softened, and he stepped closer to her. "You found it, Emma. You've always had it in you. You're not just my mate. You're the Luna of this pack, and you will lead them with wisdom, courage, and kindness." His words, full of belief and love, filled her heart with warmth. She wasn't alone in this journey. Maxwell believed in her, and that belief was something she would hold on to. They stood together in the fading light, the quiet of the evening wrapping around them like a blanket. The kingdom, their kingdom, stretched out before them, filled with both challenges and promise. And with Maxwell by her side, Emma knew that she was ready to face whatever came next. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Together, they would build something stronger than either of them could do alone. With every step they took, they would shape the future of their pack, their people, and their love. Weeks passed, and Emma's new life as Luna continued to unfold before her, each day bringing new experiences, challenges, and moments of growth. Maxwell stood by her side through it all, a steady force in her life. But as much as she leaned on him for guidance, Emma knew that the time had come for her to step fully into her role. It was no longer about simply being his mate. She was the Luna now, the leader of this pack, and it was time for her to act as such. One crisp morning, as the sun began to rise and cast its first light over the kingdom, Emma stood at the window of her chambers, gazing out over the land. The view from the castle was breathtaking, the expanse of forests and rolling hills stretching as far as the eye could see. She felt a deep connection to it all, a sense of belonging that she hadn't known in her past life. For the first time, she didn't feel like an outsider looking in. She was part of this world now, and the weight of that realization filled her with a sense of both purpose and responsibility. Maxwell entered the room quietly, his presence always a comforting constant. He stood beside her, following her gaze out the window. "It's a beautiful morning," he said, his voice soft but filled with authority. "How are you feeling?" Emma turned to look at him, her heart swelling with affection. "I'm feeling ready," she said, her voice steady, though her heart was racing. "Ready to do what needs to be done." Maxwell's eyes softened, and he placed a hand on her shoulder. "You've already proven to me, and to everyone, that you're more than capable," he said. "But I know this is a lot for you. If you ever need me, I'm here. Emma smiled, appreciating his support more than he knew. I know, and I'm grateful for it, she said. But I need to do this on my own, too. I need to prove to myself that I can lead, that I'm not just the Alpha King's mate, but someone who can make a real difference. Maxwell nodded, his gaze proud. You already have, Emma. I've never seen someone rise to the occasion the way you have. The words warmed her, but Emma still knew the journey ahead would be filled with obstacles. She wasn't just leading a pack. She was leading an entire kingdom, and that meant making decisions that would affect the lives of countless people. As the day wore on, Emma attended to her duties with the same determination that had gotten her this far. There were meetings to attend, decisions to be made, and alliances to strengthen. But with each passing task, she felt herself growing into her role. She was no longer just the woman beside Maxwell. She was his partner, his equal. She was Luna. And as the sun set on that day, Emma stood once again at the balcony, looking out at the kingdom she was now a part of. Maxwell joined her, as he always did, standing close beside her. You've done well today, he said quietly, his hand resting on hers. You're truly becoming the leader I knew you could be. Emma smiled, the warmth of his words washing over her. I'm not done yet, she said softly, but there was confidence in her voice now. But I'm getting there. Together, they stood in silence, looking out over the land they would lead, the future stretching out before them. Emma knew there would be more challenges ahead, more tests of her strength and her resolve. But she also knew that with Maxwell by her side, and with the pack behind her, there was nothing they couldn't face. She was ready to lead, and she would do so with courage, wisdom, and love.